Oh, we're live. We're live. And we've lost Michael Turner. It looks like hopefully he'll come back. And yes, we're back live. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty there and a little bit of operator error. But now we're creating a second video. And the first one was great. It lasted about half an hour. We got lots of good information in on that. So, welcome to another episode, another exciting episode of You Don't Know. You don't know, huh? So don't act like you do. Oh, yeah. Looking all around, huh? Looking all around, trying to see what we can see. Oh, hey, what's that? Little green men in a spaceship? What the hell? Oh. It's the viewers, excuse me. Let in my dog right quick. Oh, Gunter, what are you doing, buddy? Oh, come here, buddy. Come here. Let's make sure we got your food and all that stuff. We're doing a live show, Gunter. You like doing a live show? You want to be on film again? Oh, buddy, you love your live show, don't you? All right. All right. Already. Okay, so, Michael Turner. Yes. Thank you. Michael's back. And he's instructing me to carry on. So I'm going to carry on. In the last episode, I mentioned that we've got some very exciting guests coming up. We've got KJ Scoops tomorrow night, Saturday night. We've got Miles Johnson from the Bases Project, international celebrity, right? He'll be on the show next week with our new co-host on this side of the ocean. And we've got interviews with Christopher S. Jacobs. Our monthly interview with Christopher S. Jacobs is coming up in maybe about a week and a half or something like that. And I'll tell you what, those have been some of our best shows, learning about all these interdimensional realities, soul traps, past lives, soul contracts, revocation of same, revoking the soul contracts. So we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Now, on tonight's episode, I'm going to introduce you to this book. In case you've never heard of it, this book is called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And let me tell you, it's one of the most powerful books on the planet at this time. And that's why I'm introducing it to you now, because I don't usually talk about this book, because not everybody appreciates this book. But not only that, you can't just go giving weapons like this book to everybody. This is more for the advanced users. For instance, Michael Turner and myself, up late at night to get this garner this information. And so the 48 Laws of Power, yes, and it was a bestseller. And let me tell you, the 48 Laws of Power is not going to make you a better person. Okay, it's just not. This book right here is about one thing and one thing only: winning. When it counts, and when you have to, you use this book. And now, if it's a little bit distasteful to you, the precepts and concepts that are in this book, you still need to read it, because if you're not going to use the 48 laws of power, you at least want to know when they're being used against you. You catch what I'm saying? I mean, you do not lose with this thing. The only way that you can lose with this thing is if you go up against somebody else who has the 48 laws of power and they know one better than you do. Other than that, you're going to win every time, man. It's a lot of negating or overcoming human nature and stuff. It's a lot about what the book's about. Round the clock, round the clock. Michael Turner just said round the clock. So that's a Saturnian reference right there, Chronos. Remote viewing. Oh my gosh, remote viewings with us. Well, we're going to a little audience here. Remote viewing, who just happens to be my business partner and who's making our new websites and upgrading one of the ones we've already got, and also who created the Basis Texas websites, both of them. Say remote. I don't know if I told you this, but Miles Johnson reached out to me earlier tonight, and we're doing the show with Miles Johnson next week. So I'm just letting you know, and we've got to select our co-host before then. Out of all the beauties that have applied to be the co-host of this show, I can't fucking believe it. I mean, it's insane. Y'all are going to see me. I'm going to be sitting next to a woman that's so amazingly beautiful. It's just going to defy your imagination. But don't worry, I won't be intimidated, right? Or at least I'll try to act like I'm not. It's amazing, these beauties that have, for some reason, want to be involved with this show, so it's fascinating. Of course, Austin's a very forward-thinking town, and it's a town that's full of beautiful people, basically, and all different types of people. And Austin kicks ass. Last year, Forbes magazine announced that Austin was the #1 boom city in the world last year, according to Forbes magazine. Whatever their opinion is worth, right? Okay, so let's get on here to the 48 laws of power. And what's going to happen is I'm going to read a chapter to y'all. These chapters are kind of short. And the way that this book is written, it refers a lot to the courtier system of Europe in the Victorian age and before the Victorian age, all throughout the Middle Ages and stuff like that. There was a courtier system where you had these people, court advisors and stuff like that. They advised the king and stuff, and you had different empires and kingdoms and fiefdoms fighting, and baronies fighting against one another. Some of us are human and can't survive on 90 toxins all hour of the clock, or can we? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, brother. Okay. Okay. So getting back to the subject of the book, and this brings up a good point here, because I got a show. That's the other person I was thinking of. That Brandon Young. I've got a show coming up with him, and one of the things that he wanted to talk about was trolls, which is a very disturbing subject, trolls. And I really don't want to mention them too much. I don't know if this is the chapter that we're going to actually let's, speaking about trolls, let's go ahead and use that as the chapter. They have little descriptions of the chapters here in the book. This is going to be law number 36 out of 48. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. The more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. And a small mistake is often made worse and more visible when you try to fix it. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. If there is something you want but cannot have, show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. Oh, I don't need a Ferrari. Who needs a Ferrari? Oh, they just break down all the time. You can't, you got, if you get on a road that's not perfect, it's, who needs a Ferrari? We're just standing in the Ferrari. What does this have to do with trolls? Well, that would be the enemy, would be the trolls. And let me tell you, Brandon brought up that Brandon's having some battles with the trolls right now, a particular troll. And so is CW Chanter is having a problem with the troll. And they also let me know that I was being called out, or I was being stabbed in the back by a troll. And the problem has been brought to my attention that it's worse than what I thought it was. This person's been writing some emails, just telling lies and stuff like this, and making themselves look like a dumbass. But thankfully, some of the people that got one of these emails told me about it, and that's Brandon Young. And so the troll that I have right now, or one of them, is his name is maybe I shouldn't tell his name because that would just point him out and make him more strong, right? Fuck that motherfucker. I ain't gonna tell y'all his name. I get with me off list. I'll tell you this punk's name. And when I say punk, I mean a real punk, for real. Not, anyway, not going to go into that. But yeah, the whole idea of these trolls, and they come in there and disrupt your room or do something like this. Thankfully, I've now learned how to eject people from the room. I've got the little eject button. If somebody starts acting up, I can just kick them out, so they're not disrupting, the conversation. We had a guy last week on my very first show. It goes by the moniker of Bad Actor. And let me tell you, he's a bad actor. And he just got in there and started, just trying to disrupt things and was like calling me names and stuff like that. I mean, just stupid, childish shit. So anyway, I was able to delete his comment, and then I was able to kick him out of the room. And another troll that I've had in the past is a young lady, ostensibly a woman. I'm not really sure. She puts herself out like that, but with the name Blister Pac-Man. Blister Pac-Man. And Blister Pac-Man is a troll that when I put out the video, really one of the videos that helped to get me established, and this was the Leak Project video in December of 2016, where I did with Rex Bear from the Leak Project. And let me tell you, I checked the stats on that just yesterday, and that damn video's got over 46,000 views now. Can you believe that? 46,000 views. That's a lot of damn views. I just saw some stats on this YouTube channel, my YouTube channel right here, and all my videos combined with all of their views combined is not even half that much. It's right around half. Can you believe that? And we're doing okay over here. And I mean, no, let me tell you, in the marketing world, where they consider something serious, like as far as like a YouTube video or this, something needs to be looked at, or you've got something going or something like that, the magic number is 10,000. So if you can somehow put together a YouTube video and get 10,000 views, that's when you're considered, I'm not saying a force to be reckoned with, but at least noteworthy. It's not, it's really skews the playing field when people hear these numbers like 1 million views and stuff like that. The latest fuzzy puppy or cute cat, video gets, 1.2 million views. Who gives a fuck? That doesn't have anything to do with reality. Nobody cares about that shit. I mean, yeah, I guess 112, a bunch of people looked at it, but so what? I mean, I'm not in the business of fuzzy cat, videos and shit like that. I'm in the conspiracy genre. I'm bringing the truth to the truthers. That's it. That's it. Ooh, I'm not going to let anything stand. Trolls and stuff like that. They can't do any damage to you unless they say something and start saying bad stuff. Well, once they start saying bad stuff, that's how you identify them. So they give themselves up right off the bat. There's some that are a little bit more sophisticated than that. I was fixing to mention the guy's name, no, I'm not going to. He's friends, little butt buddies with this other guy I was just talking to you about. That used to be a regular on a Chanter's show, but I think they're enemies now. He's kind of there's some kind of animal that's like a huge deer, that's y'all know. Yeah. Anyway, and I hope you don't know who this piece of shit is. So he can, just take that. He can put that in his pipe and smoke it because he knows who the fuck he is. He knows he's sending around stupid lying emails. And I don't even care about that. We had a guy in here that was talking shit, and I kicked him out. And my first person, it was my very first live streaming podcast was also my very first time to kick someone out of that live streaming podcast. And I'm glad I found that button. It was pissing off some of the people that were in there. They were making, telling this guy to fucking shut the fuck up and stuff. They're disrupting my room, and so that would be what an agent provocateur would do, if there's been so many things to disrupt the truther movement. Oh yeah, Mr. Oh, are you talking about Alex Jones? Oh hell yeah, Alex Jones is getting paid. That dude's Alex. In case y'all haven't got the notice yet, Alex Jones is a total shill. He always was. He was never anything but that. And somebody who has a lot of information on that is a hardcore conspiracy theorist who's a very top of the line conspiracy theorist, probably one of the best. Unfortunately, he doesn't like me, but I don't have to. Somebody doesn't have to like me for me to be able to admire them and everything like that. And that's Josh Reeves, and I've actually got 2 videos out about Josh Reeves. The very first one's called the pending or the assassination of Josh Reeves. I put out a video on YouTube to the world with the idea that this other man is going to get killed, assassinated. Now, let me tell you, I don't know how you were raised, but the way I was raised in the family and everything like that, that would be very rude. That's considered very rude to put out YouTube videos about a man that's going to be killed. Well, let me tell you, I thought about putting that video out at least a year before I put it out. But for that very reason, the morals and ethics that I was raised with and the character that I was taught to have, I just wasn't going to do that. Put him out there like that until he started predicting his own death on his show. You start predicting your own death on your own show, game over. I mean, it's open season right there. Yes, I will put in the videos and everything and wholeheartedly agree with you. Yes, you're fixing to get your dumbass killed. Because, well, how? So let's ask this question: out of all the whole field of, investigators and conspiracy theorists and all these people with these shows, like for instance, David Wilcock, going around talking about this secret space program, exposing all this top secret stuff. If there's anything real to it, which I seriously doubt, and yet nobody's fucking with him. I mean, come on, man, real top secret shit. It's silence you right off the bat. So the thing is, there are a lot of shills and a lot of people, they're taking, I'm sure they're offered the gold or the lead, what do you want, the lead or the gold, gold meaning money, lead meaning a bullet, or assassination. And they all take the gold except for Josh Reeves. And Josh Reeves has made some of the most fascinating discoveries. And he hasn't even, revealed things to us from Spellcasters 2, which will probably be the most seminal, badass conspiracy theory genre movie in the history of the planet Earth. Because Josh Reeves, he's made some amazing discoveries over the years, and he's out there giving out information that other people just don't have. Period. And it gets into some dark, secret, scary, spooky fucking shit. There's, things that, not necessarily things that I don't talk about. But I can, let the cat out of the bag, or at least talk about some of the things that were said in Spellcasters 1. And that's about Scientology. Scientology is not what you think it is. Scientology is very serious. It's being infiltrated. It has already been infiltrated by the CIA, and it's being taken over by them. And Miscavige, they're kicking him out, or they're in the process of getting rid of him. And they're probably going to take Tom Cruise, who's probably going to be the new Miscavige. No way. Michael Turner, I was raised in jw.org. Are you talking about that you were raised in something having to do with Scientology? Yep. Oh my gosh. Wow. We've got, I don't know if remote viewing's still in the room, but Michael Turner is still here with us. He's been with us on some of our shows before. And we're now finding out that Michael Turner, jw.org, Jehovah's Witness. Well, yeah. They have there's a whole bunch of intel on that, Jehovah's Witness. They're basically Charles Taze Russell was the guy who put together Jehovah's Witness, and they're more or less a Masonic religion. Jehovah's Witness. There's the Mormons. The Mormon Church is a Masonic organization. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Many of the viewers know that I myself am in a secret society. And it's one that I refer to, that the order does not call itself this, but I refer to it as a quasi-Masonic order, because that's exactly what it is. The man who popularized it, Aleister Crowley, was at the time the world's the most decorated Mason on the face of the earth at that time. Now, Michael Turner is telling us about Zion's Watchtower. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a magazine called The Watchtower, and it tells about all their, latest events and everything, minus all the weird sexual stuff they do, and wife swapping and other things that can't even be spoken, arranged marriages with child brides and shit like that, The Watchtower is a concept that comes from Enochian magic. In other words, the late Dr. John Dee and Sir Edward Kelly, who rediscovered this angelic or quote unquote Enochian magic, they were instructed by the angels. Moroni, no, not Moroni. That was the Mormon story. But Medimi, they were instructed by the angel Medimi and other angels into making these boards, these very sophisticated drawings and graphs and everything like this to conduct their magic. And on the great cross, the great Kabbalistic cross or whatever it is, the four corners there's watchtowers. And these are some of the most powerful places on the board that somehow, correspond to the universe or something like this. So the fact that we'd see this concept or this word of watchtowers within the Jehovah's Witness religion, I think you'd call that a little bit of a red flag, wouldn't you, Michael? Would that qualify as a red flag? When the religion you're in is all weird and everything like that, it just has a lot in common with this angelic, which is code word for demonic magic. It's just, it doesn't get any better than that. Which is now just the Watchtower and Awake magazine going door to door. Yeah, okay. They haven't been by here yet. Here at my new place over here at my new luxury townhome, right on the outskirts of Austin. And no, I have not had any Jehovah's Witnesses knock on my door. Thank God. Knock on wood. Oh. So let's get into reading the chapter from the book. The way this book is set up, it has these laws, that obviously the 48 laws of power. Well, it refers a lot to ancient stories or, stories in history to back up what they're saying, to give examples in the past of things that have happened that, follow this law now, but things that either go against the law or go forward the law. In other words, these people were obeying the law, and so good things happen to them. These people ignored the law, so bad things happen to them. And the way that they say that in this book is transgression of the law, which means to go against one of the 48 laws, and then observance of the law, which means to follow the law of 48 powers. 48 laws of power. And that's how and then they have little, vignettes or whatever of historical data that they put in there. So, every chapter will have at least a one or the other, or maybe sometimes both, an observance of the law and a transgression of the law, but they'll have at least one of those things. And so the chapter we're going to go with today is law number 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. The more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. And a small mistake is often made worse and more visible when you try to fix it. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. If there is something you want but cannot have, show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. I'm glad we're reading this at night before too many, tender-eared listeners might take offense. Okay, here we go. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Judgment. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. The more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. And a small mistake is often made worse and more visible when you try to fix it. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. If there is something you want but cannot have, show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. Transgression of the law. The Mexican rebel leader Pancho Villa started out as the chief of a gang of bandits, but after revolution broke out in Mexico in 1910, he became a kind of folk hero, robbing trains and giving the money to the poor, leading daring raids and charming the ladies with romantic escapades. His exploits fascinated Americans. He seemed a man from another era, part Robin Hood, part Don Juan. After a few years of bitter fighting, however, General Carranza emerged as a victor in the revolution. The defeated Villa and his troops went back home to the northern state of Chihuahua. His army dwindled and he turned to banditry again, damaging his popularity. Finally, perhaps out of desperation, he began to rail against the United States, the gringos, who he blamed for his troubles. Bad idea. In March of 1916, Pancho Villa raided Columbus, New Mexico. Rampaging through the town, he and his gang killed 17 American soldiers and civilians. President Woodrow Wilson, like many Americans, had admired Villa. Now, however, the bandit needed to be punished. Wilson's advisors urged him to send troops into Mexico to capture Villa. For a power as large as the United States, they argued, not to strike back at an army that had invaded its territory would send the worst kind of signal. Furthermore, they continued, many Americans saw Wilson as a pacifist, a principle the public doubted as a response to violence. He needed to prove his mettle and manliness by authorizing the use of force. The pressure on Wilson was strong, and before the month was out, with the approval of the Carranza government, he sent an army of 10,000 soldiers to capture Pancho Villa. The venture was called the Punitive Expedition, and its leader was the dashing General John J. Pershing, who had defeated guerrillas in the Philippines and Native Americans in the American Southwest. Certainly, Pershing could find and overpower Pancho Villa. The Punitive Expedition became a sensational story, and carloads of U.S. reporters followed Pershing into action. The campaign, they wrote, would be a test of American power. The soldiers carried the latest in weaponry, communicated by radio, and were supported by reconnaissance from the air. In the first few months, the troops split up into small units to comb the wilds of northern Mexico. The Americans offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to Villa's capture. But the Mexican people who had been disillusioned with Villa when he had returned to banditry now idolized him for facing this mighty American army. They began to give Pershing false leads. Villa had been seen in this village or in that mountain hideaway. Airplanes would be dispatched, troops would scurry after them, and no one would ever see him. The wily bandit seemed to be always one step ahead of the American military. By the summer of that year, the expedition had swelled to 123,000 men. They suffered through the stultifying heat, the mosquitoes, the wild terrain, trudging over a countryside in which they were already resented. They infuriated both the local people and the Mexican government. At one point, Pancho Villa hid in a mountain cave to recover from a gunshot wound he received in a skirmish with the Mexican army. Looking down from his eyrie, he could watch Pershing lead the exhausted American troops back and forth across the mountains, never getting any closer to their goal. All the way into winter, Villa played his cat and mouse game. Americans came to see the affair as a kind of slapstick farce. In fact, they began to admire Villa again, respecting his resourcefulness in eluding a superior force. In January of 1917, Wilson finally ordered Pershing's withdrawal. As the troops made their way back to American territory, the rebel forces pursued them, forcing the U.S. Army to use airplanes to protect its rear flanks. The punitive expedition was being punished itself. It had turned into a retreat of the most humiliating sort. Interpretation. Woodrow Wilson organized the punitive expedition as a show of force. He would teach Pancho Villa a lesson and in the process show the world that no one, large or small, could attack the mighty United States and get away with it. The expedition would be over in a few weeks and Villa would be forgotten. That was not how it played out. The longer the expedition took, the more it focused attention on Americans' incompetence and on Villa's cleverness. Soon what was forgotten was not Villa, but the raid that had started it all. As a minor annoyance became an international embarrassment and the enraged American dispatched more troops, the imbalance between the size of the pursuer and the size of the pursued, who still managed to stay free, made the affair a joke. You got 126,000 men after one man, and you can't find this Mexican ass, huh? What the fuck? That's fucked up. All right. And in the end, this white, the longer the expedition, oh my God. Then made the affair a joke. And in the end, this white elephant of an army had to lumber out of Mexico humiliated. The punitive expedition did the opposite of what it set out to do. It left Villa not only free, but more popular than ever. What could Wilson have done differently? He could have pressured the Carranza government to catch Villa for him. Alternatively, since many Mexicans had tired of Villa before the punitive expedition began, he could have worked quietly with them and won their support for a much smaller rate to capture the bandit. He could have organized a trap on the American side of the border, anticipating the next raid, or he could have ignored the matter altogether for the time being, waiting for the Mexican themselves to do away with it via their own accord. Remember, you choose to let things bother you. You can just as easily choose to not to notice the irritating offender, to consider the matter trivial and unworthy of your interest. That is the powerful move. What you do not react to cannot drag you down into a futile engagement. Your pride is not involved. The best lesson you can teach an irritating gnat is to consign it to oblivion by ignoring it. If it is impossible to ignore, Pancho Villa had in fact killed American citizens, then conspire in secret to do away with it, but never inadvertently draw attention to the bothersome insect that will go away or die soon on its own. If you waste time and energy in such entanglements, it is your own fault. Learn to play the card of disdain and turn your back on what cannot harm you in the long run. That's very good advice right there. Just think. Here's a quote from Pancho Villa. Just think. It cost your government $130 million to try to get me. It took them over rough, hilly country, sometimes for 50 miles at a stretch. They had no water. They had nothing but the sun and mosquitoes, and nothing was gained. For $130 million. Well, anyway, that's not the end of the chapter, but that's all I'm going to read on it right now. If Michael Turner is still with us. Michael, are you still with us? Oh. Yes, Michael Turner is still with us. Well, let me tell you, we've had another enticing and exciting, thrilling, and educational edition of You Don't Know. And we're getting ready to wrap it up here. We did learn some things on the techie end, which is one thing I was trying to do. so that we won't have any more conundrums like we had the other night when I tried to do a show and it did not work out. Oh, and there we have remote viewing. Remote viewing is back in the room. All right, brother. If you have time for a conference here in a little while or in a few minutes, that's good. So that's it for this episode, part 2 of The Law of Power. I'm Anthropos. Y'all have a good evening and try to come check us out next Wednesday for our live streaming podcast right here. Thanks. Good night.